Why do you keep calling me Calvin?
That is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein? It's written all over your underwear.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Fredo, you're my older brother, and I love you. But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again. Ever.
It's the Al Travis Show. We've got him, John Hinderaker. He is the president of the American Experiment, of course, the number one conservative think tank here in the state of Minnesota, and I'd venture most of the country. John, thank you very much for being on the program, my friend.
Well, always great to be with you, Al.
I want to throw this week, because I'm getting really hard-pressed to talk much more about what the ICE raids and stuff. Well, there are going to be enough things coming up. We have to. I want to ask you about some things that aren't making the front page of the paper because of all of that, and see your thoughts on it. A week ago, well, let's start with the Democratic side. The governor gets out of the race almost 3 weeks ago now. I think it's 3 weeks on Monday. Got out of the race for governor. And I still think it's Senator Klobuchar's to have as she wants it. But we're 8 days away from caucuses, and there's no one listed as the Democratic governor candidate. Do you remember that ever happening before in the state of Minnesota? And what's the pause?
No, Al, to answer your first question, I've never seen anything like it. As you say, we're just days out from the caucuses, and nobody has filed for governor on the DFL.
What's it cost? $300? It costs $300 or something to file for governor. Why would you not give it a shot?
I think there's like 12 or 14 people who have filed for governor on the Republican side.
It's
nobody
14.
on the DFL side. Now, everybody assumes that Amy Klobuchar is in.
Yeah.
I am not, they didn't consult me on this, but I take it that what happened is that the National Democrats decided that Tim Walz had to go. I think Amy Klobuchar delivered that message to Walz, and I think that Amy agreed to take one for the team. I don't think she wanted to give up her Senate seat and come back to Minnesota and run for governor. I think that her party called on her to do that. And I believe that sometime during the next week, we're going to see Amy Klobuchar file for governor and announce for governor and begin her campaign. But it seems odd that in the 3 weeks or so that have gone by, we have not heard a thing from her.
Well, see, and this is my asking of you. Great. We all continue to think it's hers if she wants it because no one else is getting it. Have you ever seen anything that team-spirited that it is Senator Klobuchar's and no one else even dare put the $300 on whatever it is to file because you will be upsetting the team, and no one has? 14 people on the other side put their $300 down, whether they got a shot at it or not, because they want a shot at it. This is their thing. How does the Democrat hold that team so tightly that you tell me there isn't a Democratic store owner somewhere with $300 to say, if no one else wants it, I'll do it?
The Democrats are a top-down party, Al. Okay. They could get people in a room and make a decision like they did when they forced Joe Biden out of the presidential race. Joe Biden didn't want to leave that race. With hindsight, we can all look back and say, wow, it's a good thing they forced him out. If you look at the condition he's in today, there's no way he could have served a 4-year term as president. No way he could have done it. But they have that ability to get a group of people together who will decide Joe Biden is not running for president and to go tell Joe that. And he'll say, okay. And I think that something similar to that happened here.
All right. With the governor's race, how soon do you feel that narrows down on the Republican side?
I hope pretty soon, Al. We are the only state. We have a very weird system in Minnesota. We're the only state that has caucuses side by side with a primary. Every other state, they're either a caucus state or they're a primary state, but no other state is both. And so we have this elaborate process that begins just next week of precinct caucuses and working your way up, all the way to the state convention, electing delegates as you go. And all that process does is endorse a candidate. It does not nominate a candidate. It is the primary that nominates a candidate. That's not until what, August?
Yeah. Well,
it's way too late. It's way too late. And so the parties try to coalesce around a candidate and not wait until the end of the summer to have a nominee. But on the Republican side this year, I don't know what's going to happen.
But isn't that the downfall? I'm sorry isn't that the downfall of the Republican side? We got to speak honestly here. If the Democrats are only going to put one human on the card, They know by primary time that human gets the nod. It's them. They have from now or February all the way through the election in November to promote that one human, whoever that is. The Republican side, how many, 14 people, they get to the caucus, they fight their say up, and what do you know? We get to that, we nominate somebody. One person out of 14. How many of those are going to go to the primary? And then they're going to battle each other to the primary, and then the Republican will be called out 8 weeks before the election. They give themselves no runway.
I think it's a little more than 8 weeks, but it's not long enough, you know.
Yeah.
And so the practical result of that is that Amy Klobuchar, assuming this plays out the way everybody expects it to, she's going to be running against Donald Trump starting next week. The Republican candidates for governor are going to be running against each other and are going to continue running against each other. And it's a huge advantage that the Democrats enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the new news this week, and it was a couple of fold, and maybe this is why, in my opinion, Senator Klobuchar hasn't jumped in. If something happens, say, happened at the church, right, the church being taken over or whatever, you won't make the front page. Even Amy Klobuchar, Senator Klobuchar, Minnesota's lovely child, is not going to make the front page if something terrible happens in the ICE situation. David Hann, Senator Hann, got in last week, and it was like page 3, right? I mean, it was like, oh, yeah, look at the other things that happened this week with Donald Trump and Davos and all the rest. You get wiped out. That being said, Michelle Tafoya got in, and Truth in Advertising, we actually have her coming on the show a little bit later on today. She gets in, and all of a sudden, that's what everybody's talking about, right? All the news organizations. Timing is everything. Could that be why Senator Klobuchar has not jumped in? It's hard to pick which great day, and it's a crapshoot.
I don't know, Al. I really don't know. I don't know whether she is still in doubt about whether she is willing to do it, or maybe something is going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. Or is she just trying to pick the right moment to have her launch party, you know, and file and announce her candidacy? I really don't know.
But, okay, so then the other side, look at Hann and look at Tafoya. One, I think, got run over by the news, and the other one is now the top of the news article. Now, I've asked them both to be on. What I want to ask you about is on the Senate side. The Republican, they have two on the Democratic side, right? The Lieutenant Governor Flanagan and U.S. Rep. Craig are both, Andrew are looking to run for that seat. They're going to battle it out. We'll see who goes. Do you know the number that's running on the Senate side for Republicans? It's as bad as governorship. 10. Michelle's 10. And what's interesting, you bring them up. Two of them have yet to even put like a crop photo of themselves on the website so they can be listed. It's just their names. My point being is, I believe Michelle Tafoya and Senator Hann, and you also know, I had heard of Adam Swarzy, right? Have you heard of him? I have at least had
I know Adam. He's been working hard, going around with the grassroots, speaking at GOP, local events and so forth.
So you have him, Royce White, who's run the thing before. We've at least heard the name. Senator Hann is a statewide name if you're into politics, and then it's Michelle Tafoya. Those four, I can tell you I've heard of. None of the others. When do they start weeding themselves out? I mean, if you haven't even got a headshot yet to put on the website, you don't have a great campaign manager. I'm throwing it out there.
Well, I'm not so worried about the ones that nobody's ever heard of who haven't got a picture of themselves up on the internet yet. They're not going to do any harm. I worry more about if you have a field of 3 or 4 or 5, not implausible candidates who are going to be battling it out. You could say that's healthy. You could say competition is good. You could say, hey, the strongest candidate will emerge. Okay, but you don't see that on the DFL side. They have a much easier time deciding, okay, this person is going to be our nominee. Okay,
so we've been doing this for, 30 years in Minnesota? We haven't had a statewide election, a person win the election. Whose side is a better process? The idea that everybody and their brother on the Republican side can run, and then we'll narrow it down with 9 weeks, 10 weeks to go before the election. That doesn't seem to be working for us. What seems to work is the Democratic model of, we'll tell you who's next. Just hang on there, buddy. Your turn's a coming.
Well, there's another asymmetry, Al, and that is that the Republican base, the people who are delegates to the convention, try to extract from the candidates a pledge to abide by the endorsement. They want to nullify the primary, which by law is what nominates the candidate. And they say, if you don't pledge to abide by the endorsement, well, then we won't support you. And so historically, Republican candidates have generally taken that pledge, and the endorsement, which has not often gone to the strongest candidate, turns into the nomination. They don't do that on the Democrat side. On the Democrat side, they let their activists have their little playpen. They go through the caucuses. They do all that stuff. And they nominate the person they think is their best candidate. And frequently, when it's an open seat, more often than not, it's not the endorsed candidate.
Fair enough. We got to go to break. When we come back, we'll talk more about some of the stuff that we haven't been talking about because all that's going on in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota here with the ice. We'll talk about it with John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
You need a friend at the Capitol who knows how to get things done.
And you're in luck, because that's exactly who we are, your friends at the Capitol, and we deliver results.
At Momentum Advocacy, we bring decades of experience in lobbying, public affairs, and crisis communications.
From local nonprofits to national corporations, we help you move policy, manage your media, and make your voice heard.
We're not just seasoned pros, we're essential partners.
Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol. Learn more at momentum-advocacy.com.
Don't need to ask him his opinion more than once. Al Travis on the Al Travis Show.
And I love having him on. He's John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment. Trying to talk about some of the other things. They all kind of hinge around what's going on in Minnesota. Top Minnesota executives, the AG, Mayor Fry, Governor Walz, all subpoenaed records and that sort of thing for what happened since the Good shooting. That would be... If everything else was normal, that would be all we would talk about. That's really huge. But it isn't because it's mixed up with ICE. Here's the one I want to get you because AG in the state of Minnesota is suing the federal government not to give up SNAP benefits. Here's the story that came out that no one is talking about. Minnesota and 20 other states, 21 total, have not given up their SNAP names. And, the federal government gives SNAP money. Minnesota doles it out. The federal government wants to know who they're giving it to cross-reference it. we're saying that's for some reason not the federal government's business. I don't know why, but it isn't. Well, you take the 29 other states, John, that did turn it into the federal government, and in those 29 states, probably more red than anything else, they found 500,000 people signed up for SNAP benefits in more than one state. One guy in 6 states, and all using the same name, John. It was a matter of running the names in a computer and cross-referencing them. If you were to think the other 21 states would be roughly the same, there are 1 million human beings in the country getting SNAP benefits from more than one state, and we can't stop them because there are states like us that said we don't want to stop that. Why are we not talking about that? That seems absolutely ludicrous.
Al, the amount of fraud going on in the federal budget is unbelievable. You know, you hear different estimates, and they're in the trillions of dollars. Some people think that if we eliminated fraud, we eliminate the national deficit. Yeah. I mean, we are talking about trillions and trillions of dollars. And our government at every level really has just turned into a money machine for the dishonest. And around the country, Minnesota is famous as an incompetent state that is riddled with fraud. These are federal dollars and federal programs. You know, SNAP, that's a federal program. That's not a Minnesota program. And they're primarily federal dollars. And the idea that Keith Ellison and others want to propagate, that the federal government has no right, no ability to try at least to limit the amount of fraud going on in its program, I think is absolutely absurd. And I applaud the government for at least trying to make sure that these benefits are going to people who actually exist and are eligible for them.
Yeah,
and
but
only once.
It's interesting. I had a very interesting email from someone on the left yesterday sent me a thing because evidently Elon Musk saw Social Security numbers when he was doing his Doge thing. And see, this is why we don't want to give up SNAP information to the federal government. Well, surprise to me, but I presume the federal government knows my Social Security number. This isn't a shocker. They invented the number. They gave it to me. The fact they read my name with it doesn't do much for me. I had to bring it to get my real ID, for heaven's sakes. It seems like such a false argument. Is there, in your opinion, a group that likes the fraud? I can't even see that in the time we are now, when we can send people to Mars or want to send people to Mars, we can't cross-reference whether Al is getting benefits in Minnesota and Wisconsin or Iowa and 8 miles away from me. We can't do that.
By the way, Al, people have also cross-referenced names and figured out that there are a lot of people voting in more than one state. That's another example of where, if you just look at the names, you realize that there's cheating going on. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Al. I mean, I think it's absurd that we permit this level of fraud to exist. And I think what's happened in Minnesota is a pretty good example. You say, are there people who are actually in favor of this? I think the answer is yes. Look at the people who have had to be dragged, kicking and screaming here in Minnesota. Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, Democrats in the legislature. They had no desire to stop this fraud. It was federal investigation, federal prosecutions that uncovered the Feeding Our Future scandal and prosecuted. So far, I think 78 people have been charged in that massive scandal. The state authorities did nothing. And I think the only real explanation for that is that they were very happy to be funneling billions and billions and billions of dollars into the pockets of people that they think are predominantly their voters.
It's just tough to swallow. And again, this story with the 500,000 getting SNAP benefits from 2 states, and they're using the same name, and they just figured that out. And 21 states. It's just, why aren't we not talking about that? It's because all that's going on in ICE and the rest of the world. Sir, I appreciate you a ton. You know I love having you on the program. We'll do it again next week.
Always great to be with you, Al.
Okay. He's representative. He's the president, John Hinderaker, the American Experiment.
Think about it. Now that school's back in session, how are Minnesota students doing?